All right. Cool. Um, there we go. I'm live. All right. I'm going to finish up. Not finish up. I'm going to convert React Router to use the new Vite compiler from Remix. I kind of did some of this in a last stream that I did, but I just didn't finish it, and I felt like so I finished it offline and kind of figured out all the pieces and felt like now with that context it'd be better to kind of go back and go through it, one to make sure like it's just kind of me checking my own work a little bit. This is kind of how I did math a lot. That's what I studied in college and was always pretty good at it, and honestly one of my big secrets was just doing things twice, just really cementing it down. So I feel like that's going to be helpful here. And then I know upgrading to Vite has been very difficult for a lot of people upgrading to the Remix Beat plugin for a lot of reasons. We really think this is a good change for Remix. But yeah, it can be kind of tough because you get some like a lot of times you're doing CGS TSM conversions and the errors aren't always great, and we're still just tweaking things and making it better. So anyway, hoping that this will help. But I'm going to retweet this out really fast, just for anyone who was interested and maybe missed it. Yeah, quote tweet. Yeah, here we go. But anyway, I don't know. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out the streaming game if I really want to keep doing it or not. How useful it is. It's kind of helpful in that it creates some focused attention, but then I also feel like I'm just kind of focusing on like, are people watching this or not? I don't know. It's kind of weird. So anyway, I need to change the display size on my desktop really fast, and then I'm just gonna get into it and kind of walk through everything. Okay, cool. So that looks good, and then we're gonna screen share. Perfect. Okay, so this is reactrouter.com, and the website for this is React. It's GitHub slash remix run slash React Router website, and this is open source. It's been open source for a while, and it's not necessarily like we don't do a ton of maintenance on it all the time, just because it's primarily like it's a server side rendered doc site, but it's pretty static. And the way it kind of works is whenever we update docs, they don't actually get updated in this repo. They get updated in, let's see, remix slash run dash run slash router. I think that's what it is. Maybe it's React router. Let's try this. There we go. So the docs will get updated in here and in this repo. And because this is server side rendered, just with a lot of caching, this will pull in any updates to the docs. So the actual core website itself doesn't really need to change that often. Hence why the commits were pretty sparse before, like March 9th, February 12th, December 12th, October. So like roughly one a month ish. Even here, this was, this is Matt actually doing a very similar thing, upgrading to V2. Oh, fix an ESM issue. Interesting. Thought we were using just, oh, okay, that makes sense. Running the remix serve. Got it. Anyway, so yeah, so I've been recently working on it, just realizing it needed a little bit of a glow up. So React Router, here's our staging site. And you can see, well, if it loads, it's not cached, so it's a little bit slower. So please don't like bombard this site. Yeah, it also fails a good bit, which is cool. So you can see, oh no, I've updated this recently because I was testing something, so this isn't a good example. But basically, these like headers weren't this big; they were kind of small. There wasn't as much distinction between like an H1 and H2. You didn't have like on the right hand side, of course, it's gonna fail. There's like some indentation on that little like on this page nav that didn't exist. Or some other things like the font. We updated the font. Mostly stylistic things. We needed to get rid of a package, but all those commits are here. And if you are on Twitter or followed me, or whatever, I am trying to, where is it? Trying to keep a thread of everything I'm doing, just to, I don't know, just to show people like what. No, that's not it. This one, just to show people like what it is I'm doing, in case they're curious, or just, I don't know, in case they want to draw some inspiration. But yeah, anyway, that's all I'm doing here. And so I wanted to, do the Vite upgrade next because that's kind of the hard one. So anyway, okay, so I'm gonna close these things and then I'm gonna get React Router website opened up, and we will go to main, pull the latest. Okay, cool. Let's make a branch. We're just gonna call this v2 because I have done it once. But again, I think it'll be helpful just to go through it again. Give this an install. Let's go to the right half. I am gonna pull up the React Router, the current PR I have, just in case I need a cheat. So I'm gonna pull this up on the side over here. Cool. Okay, so let's get this running. Just make sure everything's going first of all. Localhost 3000. Cool. All right, so that works, which is good. So there should be no Vite. Yeah, Vite test we do have. Sometimes people get confused with this. They'll see Vite test and they'll be like, oh, you already are using Vite. And kind of, but not really. So the first thing I want to do is I actually just want to go to the remix docs and make sure that that we're following like the guide there, because that's always a helpful thing. So down in future Vite, you can see that we have this big ol' we have this nice big page on the Vite plugin and all the upgrades and everything. So I'm gonna go to the migrating path and I'll just follow all these things. This is kind of what I did in the previous stream, but yeah, I'm gonna walk through it again, and just show you kind of where the migration path, where the migration doc is helpful, and kind of call out some parts that maybe are hard to capture in like a general migration path because they're just going to be specific to your project, but hopefully the specifics are also still general. I don't know if there are improvements we can make to this. Please like call them out or put up a PR, or we can also like just ping us. I don't know. We can definitely make changes if changes need to be made. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is just installing Vite. I don't believe I have it installed yet. Yeah, I've got like Vite test, Vite ts config paths. So we got some of these things in here, but we're gonna install actual Vite. Okay, cool. So the first thing I run into, it did install, but with Node, it's always wanting to make sure your peer dependencies are all good. So it's kind of upset because it's saying, hey, remix, what is it saying? Pure optional Vite, and yeah, there's some stuff that it doesn't like. This isn't all, yeah, like the Vite.js plugin React. There's just some things that it's saying like these aren't exactly the right peer dependencies. So this might be a little bit goofed. So I'm gonna try and update like a bunch of different packages that I know need to be updated to try and get through this peer dependency issue. So the first one is, yeah, the remix package itself actually can go ahead and just be upgraded. So we'll do all of these to 2.8.1. That's the latest. Okay, so that one completely failed. Hmm, because of all the other Vite stuff. Okay, so let's maybe try and update the other Vite stuff first. So we'll get that one. We'll reinstall that. Oh, see, yeah, it's completely borked at this point. Okay, so let's back out. Man, upgrading dependencies and like figuring out all the peer dependencies and stuff is always so interesting. Okay, so I'm going to just look for everything that is labeled Vite and just get everything upgraded all together essentially. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to do npm install at latest, and then I'll go through each of the packages that I want to update. I already know this one's going to be a problem, but I'll get to that in a second. And then this one, Vite config paths, and then vtest. Is it? I always want to say Vite test, but it's really vtest, or maybe it's Vitist, right? I don't know. I assume it's vtest, but it's weird because it is Vite and test schmooshed together. Anyway, if anyone knows how to say that, happy to know. Okay, cool. So we got all those. We're gonna upgrade. Ah, man, see, it's still gonna be upset. I think it's because of this thing. Yeah, so let's change this one out. So this vtest coverage C8, that I believe is deprecated now. And it should say this if npm will load. Yeah, So this package has been deprecated. V8 coverage is moved to Vitesse coverage V8. So let's do this. So I'm going to remove it first, and then I'm going to now run that install. I'm going to install these as dev dependencies. Isn't this the most exciting upgrade ever? Just upgrading a bunch of dependencies. Then we'll do V8 instead of C8 because they changed the name. Not that we're even really using coverage in this package, but that's fine. All right, cool. Let's see what actually changed. Oh gosh, this thing is not supposed to be here. Delete you. All right. Okay, what was I doing? I was comparing. So yeah, these ones upgraded, this one upgraded. Cool. So those are all good. Now, while I'm here, I think TypeScript is going to be a problem potentially, so I'm also going to upgrade it. So just upgrading all the things that are related to like vtest and types and testing and all that stuff just to make sure they're all on their absolute latest. Let's just run test to make sure test is still good and we didn't break something there. Cool, so that's good. And then npm run type check. That's why I like updating these dependencies because they're super easy to know if things failed. Like this one, it's saying, hey, that completely failed. It does not like what you just did. And I'm trying to remember, this is one I might have to look up because I did run into this. And I don't remember why it failed. So let me really fast. I'm looking up that one just because I don't want to spend forever refiguring this one out. It might be, oh yeah, you know what? I think it's because we need to update the TS config. Yeah. Okay, so we'll do that in the migration step and we'll see if that works out. So that's one thing that's broken. Now let's see if we can update all the React stuff to the latest. Not the React stuff, the remix stuff. Let's see if that will all work. 2.8.1 or if it's going to fail again. Okay, cool. So that's all happy, which is good. And then now we can get back to actually updating Vite. All right, cool. So it seems like everything's good. It seems like everything's happy. We were able to update all the dependencies that we really care about, which is great. So yeah, even this first step is it can be tough just based on those peer dependencies and stuff, but it's not really a remix thing. It's just the reality of package managers. Some people prefer, different package managers other than npm like Yarn and PNPM and other ones. I don't know. They may handle the peer dependency stuff a little bit nicer. Maybe not. It's all good. Yeah, it's good to keep stuff up to date for the most part anyway. So not a wasted step at all. Okay, now we're gonna add this vite config .ts file. Or really, we're replacing remix config with vite config. So let's do that. Remix config to vite config, and we'll do .ts, I think. Yes, yeah, cool. Okay, so before, what did we have? We had the cache directory. This is not used anymore. We don't have any future flags set, so we remove that. PostCSS and Tailwind are not like things that the remix plugin has to handle because you can handle that stuff in Vite or outside of Vite and whatnot. Yeah, Tailwind actually specifically with the new Tailwind V4, it's gonna like have a Vite, whoops, plugin, which is super exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Yeah, using the Vite plugin, they're like 800,000 times faster or whatever. I don't think that's right. It is very fast though, from their preliminaries. Oh, searching the number 800 is not good. I thought it was an 800x. Um, yeah. Okay, up to 10 times faster. We can do a full build of the Tailwind CSS website in 105 milliseconds instead of 960 milliseconds, which is like a second, and the Catalyst UI kit. And then I think the incremental updates are like HMR or whatever is a lot faster. Anyway, super excited about that. That'll be cool that that's also going to Vite. Everything's moving to Vite. All right. And then the server module format, I think that's the only one we're going to actually keep the same as CJS because I just don't know if we can move to ESM yet. So we'll just keep that the same. That's fine. The default without setting this will be ESM. So if that was set to CJS in your project, you probably want to keep it as that. And then let's copy what they tell us to copy. Cool. So we're pulling in the Vite plugin, renaming it as remix, and then define config. And then, yeah, so we can just move that up. And now we have replaced the config. So that's good. There they say, yeah, a subset of supported remix config options should be passed directly, blah, 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 Now we can do this stuff, HMR and HDR. Vite provides a robust client-side runtime for development features like HMR. You know what, actually, before I do this, just because it's helpful to kind of do things stepwise, I'm just going to say upgrade packages and install Vite instead of getting too much stuff all at once. I like committing as I go. Okay, so now it's saying remove live reload and then keep scripts from our root. So the reason we do this is because I think my understanding is this live reload, like previously we needed that to say when should HMR, HDR, when should things like revalidate or whatever. We had our own kind of logic. And now we're just using the HMR. Um, we're using like Vite's primitives itself to do all that kind of stuff. So we don't need this anymore. So we had it in two places because it's just how the project was set up. We've deleted those. Cool. Okay, so now TypeScript integration. This is the part I was kind of getting ahead on. So it says, hey, if you have a remix.env.d.ts definition kind of file, we're going to be replacing this. Another thing, if you want, you can put this in your ts config. You can set types just in here. You don't necessarily have to do it inside of .d.ts file, but it doesn't matter. It's just kind of whatever you want. This is how a lot of projects were set up. So for migrating this, it probably makes more sense. So we're going to change this to just be m.ts. The names on these don't really matter. It is just the d.d.ts that matters for the definition. And we're changing it to env just to be a little bit more general instead of like remix specific. So we're going to add this one and we're going to delete that dev one. That should give us all the types that we want. Getting a text. Okay, cool. And then, yeah, in tsconfig, we're going to change some things as well. So we're going to change this include, which, yeah, it already did it. Okay, cool. It just needs to make sure it's picking up that m.d.ts. Okay, and then we need to make sure that we have skip libcheck as true. And we need to make sure that module is next. And module resolution is bundler, not node. So those are pretty important as well. Okay, let's see if, oops, if our type checking is fixed now because of all that. Okay, cool. So it looks like that solved everything, which is great. So whatever I was upset about, we figured out. And then npm run test, that still works, right? Cool. Npm run lint. Oops. Okay, sweet. So everything is good. And of course, that would run in CI/CD too, so we're not too worried about that. All right, so we've done most things, and then migrating from Remix App Server. So if you're using Remix Serve, this is for you. And so we're going to check inside of this package.json to see what are we actually using. So this is the start command typically. Remix-serve, that's exactly what we're using. The alternative would be if you have like your own custom server, which is slightly more involved. And I can show an example really quick of that. Actually, let me just pull it up here. So on GitHub, if we go to the Remix website right here and go into package, not that, package.json, we can see the start command here runs a server.mjs. So then if we look up server.mjs, we can see that like there's a little bit more, there's some more stuff that you do. So you got create request handler, blah, 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 blah. And then you've got, yeah, await import Vite. And you do this Vite.create server. And so you've got a few more things. You've got like your dev server that you kind of set up. But since we're just using the remix run, like that simple server, this is actually a much easier upgrade. But it's still pretty easy either way. Just follow the migration guide and you should be good. Okay, cool. So it's saying, hey, I want you to replace these three scripts. Previously, you had remix dev. Now it's remix Vite :dev. The reason we couldn't just swap out remix dev to like automatically work with Vite is because this is a breaking change. So we can't just do this in 2, but we wanted to release the Vite plugin in 2. So like in 3, the default of remix dev will be remix Vite dev because that'll be the default, and we'll get rid of the classic compiler at that point. So dev and build are good. and then the start command. um, yeah, this is very similar actually. It didn't really change except that we are going to point to dot slash build slash server slash index. And I'll show you the build when we build it because you have a client, you have a server. So anyway, that's where that one is. Cool. So we upgraded those, and then in our Vite config, gonna go back there. It's saying you probably want to install these globals, node globals. Sorry, global node polyfills. That's what I'm looking for. So that's what this install. Excuse me. That's what this install globals does. Cool. And then the final thing is it says, hey, if you want your port to still be 3000, because by default it'll change, then just set that as 3000, which we'll do. So we're not changing too much at once. And there's, I don't, it doesn't really matter. Just use whatever port you want that is appropriate. Okay, cool. So we've gone through the migration guide at this point. And ideally everything would just work perfectly. But will it? I don't know. Let's see. npm run dev. Actually, I mean, I do know. Spoiler alert. It doesn't. The CGS build of Vite's Node API is deprecated, so that's just a warning. And it says, hey, this is up and running. But then everything explodes because it's like, I can't find this. I don't know what you want. You're asking all these things of me, and you expect me to do all this stuff for you, and I just don't know how to do it. That's how Vite sounds to me in these moments. And then you get all these other things where it's like pre-transform failed to do blah 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 when evaluating SSR module API. Nope, sorry, app slash HTTPS. It failed, fails, errors, fails. So yeah, this isn't the best experience, but this is just like what Vite gives you, which is fine. Like can't find module. I mean, this is pretty good because it's like, okay, cool. You can't find this module, so I'm gonna look here and see what's going on. I don't need that full path. Oops. So we'll go in here and we'll just kind of start trying to figure out a few things at a time. So it can't find this module HTTP util slash ensure secure, which is really interesting because you would think it can find that. This is slightly different than the error I think I got before, which is why, oh yeah, I know why. This is so cool. Oh, thanks, Roger. I'm glad this is cool and helpful. Okay, so to me, it's trying to like do the Vite migration in dev mode is probably not the best way to do it. I would actually recommend doing it, just building it each time. It's pretty fast, at least for this website. And I think the errors are a little more clear because here we go. Rollup failed to resolve import of this from this thing. This is most likely unintentional because it can break your application in runtime if you do want to externalize this module. This is a little bit different than what I was getting before. I'm wondering if I just have something cached, but yeah, let's just go to this and see. Yeah, this is different. I'm very curious why. I wonder if I have some old stuff set up. So the reason this is failing, here we go. Hold on. I need to delete a couple things. This was not in a perfect state. My bad. Sorry, everyone. This one needs to be deleted as well. And then dot server. Spoilers. Everybody close your eyes. All right, let's see if that gets it in the right place. Weird. Okay. This looks slightly different than what I expected to, which is okay. We're still just going to kind of follow it and try and figure out what it's saying. So yeah, it's saying it failed to import this guy. Yeah, TS config path. Ooh, thank you so much. You're so right. I skipped one step. This should be added to the migration guide, in my opinion. Okay, so as pointed out, by Siddhant. I hope I said that name right. I'm not totally sure if that's, sorry about the butchered pronunciation. But yeah, by default, with the Remix Classic compiler, when you're doing this whole tilde import, that's like saying like, hey, this is the root. So a lot of people think, oh, that's just a remix thing. It's not really a remix thing. It's just like our templates like to do this. And so in our TS config, this is actually where we're setting this up. We're saying all our paths, if you have a tilde, star, tilde, that's going to go to dot slash app because that's like kind of the root of your whole project. Everything above app is really not your root in our opinion. I mean, it's like the root of your project, but it's not the root of your like remix app. So the classic compiler just like slurped this up and said like I'm gonna automatically use that. Whereas Vite is it's not doing a ton of stuff for you out of the gate, which is good because it lets you kind of pick and choose what you want to do. Of course, we do a lot in the remix plugin, but we decided not to do this because it's pretty easy to add this. So I'm actually gonna look at the Vite test because I think we do it there. Yeah, so you just import this tsconfig path from Vite tsconfig path, and then you just pass it as a plugin. So it's pretty easy. Cool. So that's why you should always read the error messages. I was not reading it because I was expecting the error message to be something else, and so then I got distracted, which is silly of me. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna go back to dev and see what it looks like if I get the errors I'm kind of expecting. Okay, so yeah, first it says underscore underscore score dir name is not defined, and then it points me to md.server. And so we got dir name. Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, so we're using this dir name. We're importing basically this base 16 JSON. So this is something pretty specific that React Router is doing, but it's a good example of what a lot of kind of remix projects might be doing, and ways that kind of Vite allows you to handle it better. In this case, I think you can import this from somewhere, potentially from Path. Let's see. There's other ways you could do this. You can still like use, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. Path dot dir name. I wonder if this would just fix it. I haven't actually tried this. Eh. Oh, is this a function? Tell me. No, I'm not gonna do that. This is a bad approach. Anyway, sorry. What I'm trying to say is, you can certainly use like what we're doing here is we're getting paths. We're gonna use the file system and theme path. Um, Actually, we don't. I don't think we use fs in this one, but we do use it in another one in redirects. I think it's read file. This one. We also use fs. So in general, like you can still use this stuff. You can use file systems and node primitives in Remix because you still have a server at the end of the day. But what's nice is that because Vite is like a nice build tool and build chain, essentially, you get like a lot of primitives from Vite for handling this sort of stuff. And so in general, it's kind of better to lean on Vite, especially just because it's going to automatically bundle stuff and it's going to know what your like import paths and all this kind of stuff are. So you don't need to change everything all at once if it's not working. But if something's broken, like in this situation, where was it? Inside the md server, like it's just broken. It's not working because Vite isn't accepting like this underscore underscore dir name. It's better just to use Vite primitives and change this one out. So we're gonna do that. Okay, so this is yeah, I had it to do here that we're actually gonna do this. The way that we're gonna do it, the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to import what we call it, like theme data from, I gotta go up like super high. So the nice thing is, again, like Vite, when it bundles, it's gonna see this path and it's going to, I don't know if that's right, base, no, it's in data slash base 16, there we go. It's gonna see this path and it's automatically gonna say, okay, I'm gonna pull that thing out and I'm gonna bundle it into like your final bundle, which is really helpful. Okay, so we got theme data, and then we're going to use that. And I always forget this piece is like just very specific to what this file is doing, so I'm not going to worry too much about trying to retrack all this down. But let's see, what did we break? So it's this await load theme. This is going to look a little bit different. We're not going to use load theme. We're going to use, oh my goodness, I think Tushiki theme. This is like a syntax highlighter, by the way. It's not that important. So load theme. Oh man, okay. This one I'm gonna cheat on because I don't totally remember. Do. Let's see if it's in here. Nope, not in that one. Oh, you know what? I can pull it from the Remix website because we do a similar thing. md.server.ts. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, yeah, Tushiki theme. Okay, yeah, it's pretty. I was on the right path. I just, yeah, messing with like, this is all for like the syntax highlighting and like converting all the markdown and everything. And it's just like, it's just a lot to try and use all these packages and stuff. It's not my favorite piece of the code to mess with. Um, what do we call it? Theme JSON. I like that. I like that name. And then as any whatever, we don't care about getting the correct type, and we'll import it correctly this time. And that should work. And yeah, this is actually running, which is super cool. We did get a bunch of errors here. But yeah, in dev, this is just like, this is plugging along. Oh, but this is a 404, so that's not good. So a couple things are broken. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do next is, let me think if this is a good spot to commit what we have. So what do? We change that out. We change this out. We updated all of these. We changed the env. We updated the tsconfig. We added the Vite config. We fixed the live reload, and then we fixed this first issue. Sure, let's commit this. So we'll say setup vite.config.ts. That's primarily what we did. I don't know. We did some more, obviously. Okay, like I said, I don't really like using dev to try and do this migration. I feel like it's easier just to try and get the build actually working because you can see like all the errors all at once and everything. And then you can do dev, but I don't know, to each their own. So yeah, we're gonna do this one. You get a bunch of issues. Now this is exactly what I was expecting to see before, and where I got distracted. So this I do think people are gonna run into a lot, and I've seen people run into this. Let's see if the migration, if what we say here. So we've got this like common JS resolver server only module referenced by a client. Oops, geez. So if I just search for that, that's nowhere in here. Can I do it in here? What do we get? We get migrating your React router to remix. We get client modules, server versus client code execution. Yeah, so we don't actually have that phrase, which is a bit unfortunate, but we have a bit of a conversation about, yeah, splitting up this server versus client code execution is definitely a very good this is under guides, discussion topics. So I think we probably link to it. Let me go back to that and make sure we are, just to get a little bit of a context on our docs a bit. Server code migrating. You'll also need to update your server code. Server code errors in browser during development. Uncaught reference process is not defined. Oh, that's good because we will run into that. But we'll get there. Yeah. We do talk about it a bit. I mean, you really should be reading over the whole guide. I'm definitely skipping around, which is like the worst way to do this. So if you see errors in the browser console during development that point to server code, you likely need to explicitly isolate server only code. So this is where we reference it. And then that goes to splitting up client and server code, which goes to splitting up the client and server code, which goes to exactly where I was at. Okay, so I'm glad we do at least link to that. So this is really important because Remix kind of by default, yeah, the following route exports and the dependencies used within them are removed from the client. So by default, if you're in a route file, action headers and loaders, we're just going to say we know what those are. We know what those exports are. We're going to rip them out and make them server only. I think eventually we're going to get kind of a better API than just like named exports, something a little bit more type safe and more generative. There's been a lot of conversations about that. So anyway, I'm excited for that. But in the meantime, you just got to know like these are the three that are automatic. Everything else you want to be a lot more explicit about. This is server only. So there's a couple ways to distinguish server only code for Vite, and we'll go through that. So splitting up client and server code. One thing that with Vite that we added, which is really nice, is .server modules and .client modules. So now you can specify an entire like module and everything within it as saying like, .server, and everything in that will now be server only, which is great. You can't import it from the client. It'll blow up and it'll give you a nice warning if you do that. So we're definitely going to be using these .server modules. We don't really have any client only stuff that we need to worry about, so we don't have any client modules. And then Vite env only. This is a small package that Pedro made. Actually, I don't know if it's small. I've never looked at it. That part's small, but he does more stuff. I don't care. It's very simple. Is what I'm trying to say. Excuse me. So basically, you set it up, you add it as a plugin, env only, and then you pull this server only $sign, the reverse of jQuery, I guess, and you wrap whatever you want with server only. So basically, sorry. So yeah, this is saying like if you have an export in some sort of client module, but it's like really only a server only thing, you can wrap it in this. Why would you want to do this? The main motivation is the idea of like full stack components, if you're familiar with those. So Kent C. Dodds, when he worked at Remix, kind of made up this idea. And it's like it's a cool pattern for getting. Let's see if he has like the full example of it, for creating a component that is like very much tied to the loader and to the action and whatnot that it's like a part of. So you're just exporting. Yeah, where's the final example? There we go. So basically, you've got like a route, and this route you export this custom combo box. So wherever you use this customer combo box, it automatically knows like what data to pull and whatnot, which is nice. So you're exporting this function, which is like is a client side function, or at least has some client sidey things that you can do, like use fetcher and whatnot. And hey, Pedro, did you hear your name and you just showed up? Uh, and so, um, what was I saying? Yeah. So basically, you can export this customer combo box and use it wherever you want. This is like sort of React Server components, like almost React Server components, like some of the DX of React Server components without the implementations, details, and like the island architecture. I know that's not what they call it, but that's what it is, more or less. So anyway, people wanted to do this. People wanted to export these components from like routes and use them wherever. And initially, Pedro and Mark were like, "No, that's dumb. We're not going to do that." And then they realized, no, we should allow people to do that. And the fix is you would wrap it inside of that, like the server only. And so you're saying like, "Hey, this export is just for the server only." In this case, I think that's actually a bad example because that one was used client only, but it was for this. It's if you're if you're exporting something from a file, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's you're exporting like a loader from a file, but you only want it to be used on the server. Anyway, so actually full stack components don't need, yeah, see, he just caught me. Don't need to necessarily export any custom server exports. That's right. So strictly speaking, you can do full stack components as described by Kent without rendering Vite only. Okay, I was combining two things. So yes, Pedro and Mark made it to where you can do full stack components. That's good. Where this does come up though is like if you are, I have run into this, I'm pretty sure it's like if you're like exporting a loader from like a file that's not the route file and you would need to import it in the route file doesn't know like, oh, that's server only. So then it is bundling it into the client because it didn't know that that was loader. Again, like the whole named export thing is kind of annoying. You can actually see that we have an example here. So the way this one's set up is inside of component slash doc route, whoever set this up, I think it was Ryan, not a big deal, just some preferences, not my preferences. So he set up the loader here, export loader here, and then he just re-exports it from here. So Vite doesn't know this is magic server only stuff. So one solution is going to be doing this, wrapping in that server only if we set that up. This is one solution to it. I'm going to do it differently than this because I don't even like this pattern that much, and it's my turn to change all the code, so I can do it how I want. And then later on, someone else will come and look at all the code that I did on a stream, and they'll say, "Why did Brooks do all this? I'm going to redo it this way," and thus is the development life cycle. Sitemap staff was server only stuff. Okay, that also makes sense. Oh, okay, interesting. For example, Kent was doing some sitemap stuff and wanted to co-locate route specific metadata for sitemap in the route files. Okay, that's cool. That makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. Thank you, Pedro, for correcting my mistakes there. Anyway, so all that all that conversation is me trying to sort of summarize a little bit of this server slash client code execution stuff. Hopefully, this stuff will get easier as it goes. As we progress what remix is, I think there's going to be some patterns that'll make this stuff easier, but this is the reality of like if you are doing server side rendering of any type, if you have a server, um you have a lot more you can do with your website, which is cool, but you do have to start thinking about like the fact that you do have a server and the fact that you do have a client. RSC actually tries to kind of solve this. It's really interesting that that's like a motivation for the, let's see if I can find it, React server components RFC. Yeah, I was reading this again, and one of the reasons they like implemented this is because their motivation was zero bundle size. That's right. It was avoiding the abstraction tax. In their mind, React server components make this a lot easier to think about. I think it comes with a lot of other abstraction tax stuff, so I don't know. TBD on that. Nothing is free, but a lot of their motivation of RSC was that it makes the server client divide potentially easier to think about. Okay, that's a lot of talking. Now let's actually get back to coding. So server only module referenced by client tags.server imported by this guy. So they're saying, hey, GitHub docs slash index .ts, that's client only because you didn't tell me it was server only. And what are you doing here? You're importing the server stuff. Can't do that. That's what it's telling me. So it really doesn't like that I did that. But like I said, we have the convention to do GitHub slash docs dot server, and now everything in that is server only, which is actually probably correct. You need to go through and check all these things, but I already did that. And like I can look at it, and it's the GitHub docs. Like basically the whole point of this thing is to fetch our docs. Essentially, we're not doing that on the client. We are doing that on the server. We are running really heavy packages all on the server and everything. So this is perfect. So I am just going to make everything in here server versus just specifying which specific things are server. If this blows up, we'll find out and then we can move that stuff out and everything. But yeah, this is good. So the first thing I'm going to do is I know that VS Code is not going to have done that correctly. So I'm going to look up everywhere. Yeah, there we go. Where we import GitHub docs and I'm going to fix these. So even though I changed that name, it doesn't really know that I changed that name. So let's fix all those. Whoops. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so those are all fixed. So that's a good first step. And then the second step is kind of optional, but I found this easier. It's just to remove the dot server from all these sub modules because it doesn't need it. This whole thing has now been marked as server safe, server only. Okay, so that one's good. So now let's run build again and see what happened. I think for directories, the name needs to be dot server, not a dot server suffix. Really? I'm pretty sure this works. That or I'm shipping all this stuff to client. Hmm. I really thought we could do. That's very sad to me. That's good to know. While not strictly necessary, dot server modules. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's a bummer. So blah.server isn't treated as server. I had a totally bad understanding of that. Why, out of curiosity, why didn't we do that? Okay, it's a good suggestion. Cool. Glad my just naivety could influence that. Yeah, yeah, to me it's just like it's the same convention. So let's just do it the same way. Ah, this one didn't get updated. Okay, well, thank you, Pedro. I'm gonna fix that. Ah, that's so interesting. Now I've got to make a lot more changes. Oh, sorry, I was trying to figure out why this one doesn't work. Dot server. No, it's good to know. All right. No, that's not it. It is it's seriously, it's just because I'm dumb, I'm pretty sure. And just because I just have a very simple mind when I program. So I've got to do, okay, this is fine. I can do this. I'm a big boy. New folder. So I just have to do this. And then I got to throw everything into that. And then it's going to change all these imports. All right, let's try it. Man, this is totally going to break everything. Wait, hold on. I think I grabbed too much. No, that's right. I just throw the test in there. Yeah, let's just throw everything in there. This is wild. Okay. Yeah, I guess that works. That's fine. So instead of, yeah, it just has a slash now. This is awesome. All right. Okay, let me fix all these now. Yeah. Do I need to do I need to write up a request to change this? Or are you gonna do this for me? Oh man, I think I totally goofed those other ones. That's okay. GitHub docs. Let's just make sure I did them all right. Slash server. Did I mess that one? Yeah, I messed these two up. Dot server. Dot server. Okay, cool. That's so funny. Okay, so when I fixed this previously, I fixed it by just shipping everything to the client. That's good. That's good to know. I'm glad I'm doing this again then. I'm glad Pedro decided to jump on. I really should probably get people to review my work. They should not trust me to just blindly throw stuff into our repos that are used by lots of people. Okay, now we're gonna run build again. Oh no, I got distracted. I wanted to delete the dot server on these since we're already in the dot server module. Cool. I think those are all good. Let's run a type check first. You'd have one top level dot server. Yeah, that makes sense. I get it. Yeah. That no, I that's a good idea to have just a top level dot server directory and put everything server related in that. But yes, you're right. That's why we got to do migrations because they help us just learn where we're doing things weird. So yeah, I could have made a top level dot server and then thrown modules into that. That would have been one way to do it. I think this is fine. I think I'm gonna keep going this route, but I like that understanding of the motivation. Do we say that in here? Not that we need to tell people how to like. It's such a hard balance, like trying to encourage people to have good like code and repo hygiene, but also like realizing so much of that stuff is personal preference. This is why like file-based routing is so difficult because it's helps us a lot. It was a way we could do like code splitting and all this sort of stuff for free. But it's so opinion driven. So anyway, we showed as the example. Yeah, that makes sense. Marks all the files in this directory server, and then marks this file server, and then we've got this one. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Makes sense. Okay. Cool. Yeah, we don't want to be too prescriptive. Thanks, Pedro. Okay. What? Yeah. So get latest. Now this one is saying, hey, I don't know. Oh yeah, I was doing a type check just to make sure everything is working out. So let me search for this thing. So this one got goofed up. Dot server slash tags. So I just removed the dot server from there. So let's run type. This is where TypeScript is super helpful with these kind of imports and stuff. It tells me if everything's broken or everything's working. Okay, build again. Let's see. There's going to be, I think, one or two more where we need to do this. Just scroll past. What is, I've never even, yeah, watch files. This is wild. It just spits out so much stuff. That does not matter. I mean, it does matter. It's just like, it's so, I always have this problem where it's like the very first thing that blew up is the thing I want to read, but then it like automatically has to spit out a bunch of other stuff or does or whatever. So then you're just scrolling because you're like, I really just care about that first thing. It's the opposite of TypeScript. I feel like when you have a really gnarly TypeScript issue, um, you have to like scroll down all the way to the bottom and be like, what's the last thing? I think that's right. Anyway, all good. It's just what it is. Okay, so imported in here. So this one is, am I in the right file? Yeah. So GitHub docs slash dot server. Why are you upset? So server only module reference. Oh, okay, because doc route is client only. It doesn't know that, it doesn't know that git repo doc inside a loader. It doesn't know this thing is server only. So this is where I could use Pedro's server env vite env only thing, and I could wrap this and call it a day. And that could work. That could work really well. Sorry, gotta catch up on all these chats. I should have just had Pedro on this with me. That would have been fun. Maybe next one. This guy gets it. Yeah, it's trade-off of not owning the compiler. We can't control the error message. That's precisely right. I still want to look into how we could curate the errors better. Yeah, I'd love that. Just better errors in general are always nice, or just being able to curate the errors. That's been the biggest frustration I've had with this migration. Is just like learning how to decipher the errors. That's a big reason I want to do this, because it's like you're not going to run into the exact issues I'm running into, but you're going to run into probably very similar issues. And so I'm hoping to at least help you understand, like, this is how I'm solving the client server divide. This is how I'm solving like the using imports instead of like FS, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so for this one, the way, so like I said, I don't actually like how this was set up initially. So let's see if I can find it. Yeah. So the reason that we did the doc route, like app slash component slash doc route, is because we have inside of like, let me show you the full path. What is it? It's lang ref catchall. So in en English main, and then this is the catchall. Inside of that, we just want to render all these things. But then inside of index, which is just here, oh my goodness, go home. Oh, this doesn't work because I'm not running. I'll just run React Router. I'll just go to this one. Inside of this one, it looks different. We don't fetch this from GitHub. We render this inside of index, this one. We do a lot more kind of custom rendering here. Yeah, you can see we have a bunch of stuff. So I'm not going to go through all of it, but we are using that doc route. So we're using the same header, loaders, and even the doc page, which is interesting. Yeah, I think there's like some versioning stuff going on here. That's why. Okay, so yeah, we're using all those loaders in multiple places. So that's one way you can do it. You can hoist it out into here. The way I'm going to do it, that will just make the compiler work for me the way I want it to, is I'm actually going to just steal all of this and put it all in here. And so now this one will work. Let's make sure there's some error. Yeah, this thing isn't happy. So let's fix that. Nope, it's not that. It's slash. Oh, come on, go away. I think it's slash components. Yeah, slash. There we go. I'm going to change the name of that in a second, but that's fine. So all that doc route, I'm just going to put it in the splat route. And then inside of this index one, I'm going to delete this old one. We don't need that anymore. Inside of this index one, I'm just going to import it instead from routes slash this guy. So we'll say that's the source of truth and get all of your stuff from there instead. So that will make it to where the remix plugin knows exactly what should be server client split. So that should be good. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to, just while I was here, I wanted to change the name here because that's kind of a silly name. This isn't components anymore. Let's just call it UI. That seems fine to me. I think that's what I call it. Delegate markdown links. I'm gonna cheat again and just look at what I actually called it. Yes. Yep, that's it. Okay. So now let's build it again. Oh wait, no, this is upset. Cool. Okay, so we still have that warning. That's fine. Okay, things did still blow up. App.root default is not exported by app. Ooh, okay. Here's a new one, which is good. This is another thing that you'll need to fix. So with CSS files, things kind of changed a little bit. I think this is called out in the migration. Oh, I'm not in the migration anymore. Let's go back to it. So CSS, or like, let's look up like Tailwind in this example. I'm surprised. Where are, on this page, do we have anything about like CSS? I would imagine we do. Let me just scroll through it. This is like a Vite specific thing. So this is always a hard thing we have of like, how much should we be educating people about Vite? How much not? Yeah, so this remix run CSS bundle. Ooh, let's see if we have that anywhere. No, we don't. Okay, cool. So we were doing Tailwind the old way ish. No, we weren't. We were doing it whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we used to have this remix run CSS bundle. This is how we bundled everything for you. And now we're saying, hey, you can actually just import your CSS files as a URL by attaching this query param URL. This is a Vite thing, and now this turns this into a URL. Otherwise, if you're importing it, you're just importing it as like a global side effect. So yeah, if this is not really making sense, that's fine. Just look at Vite. I don't know. Yeah, Vite CSS. Let's see what it says. They should have like all their answers of how CSS kind of works. I would think. Yeah, here you go. So post CSS modules. So they got module support automatically, pre-processing. Yeah, here's the will inject into the page. Yeah, will not inject. Okay, so all sorts of things. Anyway, what we want is we just want all Tailwind as a link so that we don't have to do much more migrating. And there, it's good. While we're at this, let's just look up, are there any other .css imports? Okay, there's one more, so we'll just change this one to a URL as well. And that'll have us on our merry way. Okay, cool. Oops. Gonna build again. Oh, wow. It worked. Everything's perfect. That's awesome. Um, we still get this warning, which is fine because they're just saying like CJS build of Vite's Node API is deprecated. You're gonna want to move to that. I feel like we should host office hours for migrations. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Whoever wants to volunteer, we can invite and call and help them migrate their app. We learn a ton by doing this. Yeah. Ooh, Pedro, that is a very interesting idea. Office hours. Yeah, I think that could be pretty cool. Yeah, I guess Kent like kind of does a thing like that. I might look at how he's done that because I like that. I don't want to put more on the team than they want, but if that's something the team is interested in, I think that could be super helpful. I definitely feel like 40% equipped to help with stuff like this, but yeah, if you and or Mark are interested in that for these kind of migrations, that would be cool. But yeah, okay, another conversation for another day. Maybe in our next all hands we discuss that. But yeah, we would learn a ton by doing that. And because yeah, there's just when you're writing docs and you're doing a feature, um, no matter how smart you are, you're not going to run into the things that other people are going to run into for their bespoke specific apps or the setup that they have. So it just so the typical iteration is you do your best. Maybe you dog food a little bit if you have like a website or whatever. Um, you get a little bit of feedback and then you write docs and whatever, and then you throw it out in the world, and then everyone else uses it, and then they write more docs or give you feedback or whatever, and then hopefully it gets better. But yeah, if we can close those feedback loops, that's better for everybody, I think. Okay, yeah, we don't need it to be recurring, just something we do once or twice. It's a good idea. All right, so that build worked. So now let's run dev. Actually, let's commit all this stuff and say fixed server client issues. That's fine. Okay, cool. So now we're building and we're going to see if this actually works. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. It says it's ready, but it didn't refresh. Oh, that's just because I had to refresh it. It had no way to know on the browser. Okay, this page is good. That page was already good though. So that's not, I'm unimpressed so far. The real the real impressiveness will come if this works. And it does. Amazing. Wow. Yay. We're done, I think. Ish. Cool. So this works. Let's make sure the brand page it works. Um examples is uninteresting, frequently asked questions, main concepts, change log. Oops. Ah, this is awesome. Okay, cool. So everything works. Man, I totally feel like I'm forgetting something. Oops, you can see behind me. I have a video I need to watch. Um, cool. Okay, so this just works. And this is what always makes me nervous about migrations, because it's like, what hidden thing is working that's or is not working that I'm not aware of? Oops. We'll run the tests one more time. So there's one more thing I know that I need to fix. So we'll do that one. But yeah, this is pretty much working, which is good. Let's actually one thing I did want to see. I was very curious about. So the build works. I can't actually run the build. There's a bit of a problem. If I run start, I'll show you. I was talking to Pedro about this the other day, so he can see it for realsies. It throws this new throw new error missing GitHub token thing. So if we go into, ooh, that's not what I wanted. That's the actual built version of it. What is it missing? Yeah, whoops, there it was. Sorry. Inside of here, inside of GitHub, inside of this module, we run sorry, we check if the process.env.node has like a GitHub token. So it's kind of weird because in dev, my .env file, which I'm not going to show you because this is a stream, it automatically gets like slurped up by remix dev. And so then I have access to my env variables, or like whatever was .in.env. I can show you the example. So you've got like session secret. Oop, and source repo and GitHub token. So these automatically get attached, but in prod they don't. You need to use like .env or something to get it to work. So the thing is like npm run start doesn't work at all, but this was also not working before Vite. And the reason it works in build, so in Docker, you got npm start, is because this is deployed on Fly, and Fly has its own environment variables, and I guess it like injects them in some way. It always annoys me. What were those empty chunks warnings? Oh yeah, we can do those. Let's see. I think you can do node require.env. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's not the exact syntax or something like that. Yeah, I'm not super worried about it. But yeah, it's just weird to me a little bit that it's like dev and prod have different behavior for that thing. Yeah. I don't know what these are. Generate an empty chunk for color scheme, health check, and index. So let's see, color scheme. That's a route. Oh, it's just because I assume it's just because you're just exporting an action from module slash color scheme. Okay. And then health check is probably the same thing. Why are we? This is so funny to me. So this route is just like these are just resource routes essentially. They don't have any they don't have a component because this is like the health check one is specifically for Fly to like check the health to make sure like is this returning something. Oh hey, Seth's on. I love Seth. Seth goes to the Remix Austin meetup and he's working on plug. He's working on something pretty fun. Only 13. Come on, people. It's gonna be a good one. I gotta send out an email, make sure people get there. Seth is working on our remix rodeo in April. So if you're in Austin or know someone in Austin or want to do your own meetup and something similar to this, how do I go to the GitHub pages? Can I just click this? Yeah, there we go. Nope, that's not it. This one. We're gonna be doing like a little hackathon next Wednesday where it's like build a restaurant ordering app, which I think will be super fun. Just seeing how a bunch of different people build like a restaurant ordering app and remix, which will be really cool. So anyway, thanks Seth for hopping on. That was very nice. Okay. Wow, just infinite distractions for me today. Pedro. Yeah, probably for the client. The color scheme is empty since it's a resource route. Yeah, I think it's just resource route. So it's just saying for the client, like, hey, there's nothing in here, but we are generating these chunks that are just empty. But just so you know, which is fine. That's okay. Like this one, the index, we're just like, hey, go to en main if you're at the index, because that's actually the index of this thing. So that's what those are. Yeah, Pedro, you should probably. I'm gonna send you the PR when this thing's done, and you can run through everything, make sure it's all working. Okay, the thing that I wanted to do was what did I change here? I wanted to go back to Vite config, and I just want to see if I can get rid of this. You never know. I don't recommend removing this. If this blows up, I'm just gonna keep going with my day, and it'll be an issue for a later time. Okay, so that all worked. Question though, why am I getting the CTS build of Vite's node API is deprecated? This is something I don't fully understand, or as always happens to resolve the routes. Oh, Pedro's still on the other thing. Anyway, yeah, I don't totally understand this this warning, but again, like this is working. This is a warning. Ah, geez, that went to the wrong window. For another day. So let's see, Vite CGS. Oh, I think this is about. Is this using ESM syntax the closest package dot? So let's change. Let's see if I can just change my package.json to be a module. Oops. What is it? Type. Will this just fix it? Maybe that's what that was about. Okay, and then that broke, of course, because I need to change post CSS. I guess this is worth doing as long as it's very easy. Oh gosh, what is it? It's gonna be like .ts. Oops, not TSS. Type safe CSS. And then this isn't right. It's just gonna be like export default. I think I can just do that, right? Will this all work now? TS node, what are you talking about? Post CSS config. Yeah, what did I do wrong? TS node is required for the TypeScript configuration files. Make sure it's installed. Really? For post CSS, you need TS node. Okay. I guess so. Do we really? This seems silly. .mjs. Okay. Yeah. So I can just do the old version in .mjs. I don't need this to be in TypeScript. That's a good point. Man, all these file names though just drives me crazy. I know it's like not that hard once you understand it all, I guess. But it's just like for the common. Oh my gosh. For the common man, this is really annoying. Module is not required. Jeez, I should actually read this. Failed to load post CSS config. Module is not defined in ES module scope. Module is not defined in ES module scope. It doesn't support TS out of the box. That makes sense. You still want export default. Right. Oh, duh. See? So it's like these very slight differences of how things are imported and exported. That's all that's different. Okay, so we went from JS to MJS, which is like ESM can support that one. I think that's what that means. Okay. Yeah, thanks. I don't know. I have to relearn this every single time I do this, and it always makes me feel like a silly person. Um, but I get why it's frustrating for people and all the different, yeah, common JS versus ESM and all that kind of stuff. Like, I hope one day we are all just like in a world where it's like 95% ESM. That'd be cool. And it will only happen if we all push that direction, but it is frustrating in the meantime. That's okay. Right over. Since EMJS is ESM. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm like probably 10 seconds ahead of you saying the answers as you're typing them. Okay, cool. So that was nice that we could just get rid of that CJS, like whatever that thing in the V config was. The server module format, we can now just go to default of ESM. That's cool. And everything should be working great. This is a pretty simple, website. Relatively, like it does some pretty cool stuff as far as like the fetching of the GitHub docs. That's where like all the complicated stuff is. But as far as like this is the only action in the entire website. So that one's pretty simple. It can go back. You can go to any like version you want, which is really cool. And it'll pull up the docs from that version, which is like awesome. That's the benefit of server-side rendering this. Um, but yeah, it's not too crazy complicated. Oh, thanks for all those flowers. Cool. All right. So the remaining thing that I need to do, I'm gonna commit this one because we got that fixed. We'll say, oh gosh, go away. Oh, you know what? I actually know what this is. Because I threw something into, yeah. This is just a fixture that's automatically generated, but since I threw this into .server file, I need to change that name. So we'll add to get ignore, and then we'll throw this up here. We'll just change that name. That should go in here. Ooh, hopefully I didn't save this last time. Darn it, I did. This guy. Can I just delete you? There we go. Cool. So we'll say, gosh, what was I? What did I want to call this? Yeah. Change server module format from CJS to ESM default. Do that actually this way. Okay, got it. I can type. I promise. I'm a professional. Okay, the last thing I want to do is I just want to show an example of how you can use just some more kind of Vite like import stuff instead of FS. So I'm gonna look up like, are we ever using FS anywhere? Import from, let's do it this way, from FS. So inside some tests we do. I'm not that worried about that. This one you use FS promise, and this is getting repo content specifically from like a local file, and that's outside the scope of this project, and we don't want that to bundle. So yeah, there it actually makes sense to use FS file system from Node. And then there's this guy, which is the same thing, I'm pretty sure. Let's see what this one is doing. Yeah, create stream. Yeah. This is for a local thing. Getting a local tarball. Yeah, exactly. So this is all for like local development kind of stuff. So yeah, we're good there. But where I do want to get rid of it is inside of this read file, .server.ts. So what this does is it reads, we have this redirects file in this repo. And so basically you can see some examples. This setup is like you say, I want to go from, one route and I want to redirect to another route, and then I want to redirect it with like a 301 or a 2 or whatever. I think the default is a 2. I always get those two mixed up, but it'll, yeah, 302, which is like the non, that's like the one you should be using most of the time because 301s are like permanent and get cached and stuff in weird ways. And so yeah, that's the this is like a custom kind of syntax thing. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the first thing I need to fix is when I save, Prettier is coming in here and jacking everything up. So we're gonna say underscore redirects so that it doesn't yeah, it doesn't jack it all up because I don't need you to format that. That's the correct format. And then yeah, so here where we read it, we get this buffer, and then we say buffer to string, which is interesting. And then we split it by the new lines, and then we do a reduce, and we get all this data and whatnot. The good thing is we actually do have a, if I look at like where this is all exported, we have a test for it already. So I'm gonna make this full screen because it's gonna be a little easier. So we have a test for this, which is good, but what's kind of weird is like this is, yeah, this is using like a path directory to find it, which was nice because it's like, oh, now we can test it by giving it like this full path to like a fixture. But I don't really want to do that. I just want to like import. It's not that. What do we call? We'll call like redirects. Oops. Redirects file from. It's gonna be like all the way at the top, I think. Redirects, yeah. So we just want to import it. I just want to import it with like Vite so that it automatically gets bundled. I do need to pass this question mark raw, so it just imports it as a string essentially. So that's what I want to do. I don't really want to give it a path anymore. So I want to get rid of this. And I want to throw this in here. Well, sorry, what am I doing? We don't need any of this. This should be fine now as this. So that's how I want to do it. But the problem is now this will break this test completely. So how do we solve this? This was kind of a maybe unique kind of situation, but, and again, like you don't have to do this. This works perfectly fine already. This isn't like a Vite upgrade specific, but you may want to rely on Vite's like imports a little bit better and let it kind of control the entire import module and path and everything. So yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is just to make sure I don't break anything, I'm going to console log what these redirects look like inside of the actual browser. So this is just like a sanity check, and then we'll fix the test. Okay, cool. So it automatically went. So we want it to look like this. I'm going to copy and paste this just for reference. Okay, so now go back through everything I just did. Redirects file from, I think it's 3. Redirects. Cool. Slash raw. Or question mark raw. Get rid of this guy, like I said. Also, by the way, like another little hack, kind of interesting thing is where we load this in memory on the server, and then if it exists, we just bail. So that's just memoization more or less, kind of not exactly because we're not looking at the. It is, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, little hack so we don't have to rerun this every single time. All right, cool. Get the redirects file. We're gonna split it by that. Blah blah blah. We're gonna delete. Oops. Delete these things, and then I'm gonna rerun this just to make sure it's all good. Oops. Come on. Why are you not running? There we go. Yeah. Okay. So this looks right. Just from like a sanity check standpoint, these look like the exact same things to me, right? Yay. Okay. Cool. So everything's good. So that format is all good. So now what I want to do is I actually want the test itself to work, but I kind of did fundamentally, not fundamentally, I changed how this works. You can't pass in a file path. So let's run npm run test. And then we'll filter to, oops, p check URL. It's broken, which is cool. So the way I can do this is I'm not a great testing person, but this is how I did it. I mock oh gosh, I think it's gonna be this one again. where are we? We're at this one. So 1, 2, 3. I think it's the same amount. Yep. And I'm gonna mock it with I think you have to do like default blah 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 blah. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna import it. Um, Hopefully this works. I don't know if I need to do the raw one here. We can't find that or its corresponding type declaration, but it exists. Why don't you think you can find it? All right, let's see if that works. So it totally doesn't, because it expected something. I think this just has to be like this. There we go. Okay. Ridiculous. Okay, so all we're doing is we are like mocking some details. But again, I think it's okay because this is what I want this to rely on. And so instead of testing like actually what's in the redirects, because that will change, we want to test this fixture. Ooh, can I get rid of this? I'm really curious about that part. No, I can't. Okay. We want to do this fixture because this fixture is it just has the examples, some good examples already set up. So all we're doing is we're mocking it, and then what are we mocking it with? We're mocking it from this imported one. Again, I don't know if this is great. Also, I don't think we have auto mocking reset set up, so I'm just gonna do reset, restore all mocks. I think that's right. I don't know. I'm not a great tester, so if someone has a better way to do this, cool. Okay, I think that was the last thing. So yeah, that's just a little bit of testing stuff that's not that important, but mostly just wanted to show the diff here that Vite makes it a lot easier just to like handle files and get stuff automatically like bundled up and whatnot. So now if we run npm run dev, let's just like test out a redirect. So we've got like, oh, if you're at /core, it's going to go to the old v5 stuff, which is cool. Cool. Yeah. So, man, this is so funny. All these thumbnails are ridiculous. It's because this is like an incognito. And so I'm on some like a coding thing video. And it's like, you want to watch all these mustaches. All right. That's so yeah, that redirect worked, which is cool. /web. Noise. All right. Very happy about that. Happy that all works. I think that was the last thing that I needed to do. So I think that is pretty much it. This should now be upgraded to Vite. I'm going to push all this code up and I'm going to get Pedro to review it and it should be good. So hope you learned something or this was kind of helpful or whatever. Please reach out to the team if you're struggling. Reach out on Discord if you're struggling with upgrading or using the Vite plugin for Remix. If you find a bug, please recreate a reproduction of that bug and post it on GitHub, and we will fix it. Cool. Thanks. Thanks everyone who came in at any point and watched this. I hope that you have a fantastic day.